Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well. At least it's morning over here on the West Coast. It is 10:30 in the morning here in California. Welcome to our live Q&A. And let's do this to start. I would love to find out who's in the room. As people are coming in the room, I'd love to find out who you are, because we're just sitting in a studio looking at a camera. First name, where you're joining us from, one thing that you're excited about today, and you can also plug in your question for today, because today is all going to be driven by your questions. I didn't come here with an agenda except to serve you. And so first name, where you're joining us from, one thing that you're excited about today that you feel life on, because today is Mentor Monday. You can either turn on your microphone or you can use the chat widget. But let me find out who you guys are really quick. Let's see who is in the room really quick.
My name is Charlene.
Hey, Charlene, where are you joining us from?
Baltimore.
Awesome. Very good. What are you excited about today?
I'm excited because I'm about to take the exam, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Way to crush it. Excellent. Do you have any specific questions for today?
No, I've just been coaching for like a long time, and I just want to get the certificate and the money to go along with it.
Exactly. That's so good. Yeah, it's about time. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Charlene.
Thank you.
All right. I see Omar made it into the room. Welcome, Omar. Anybody else? First name, where you're joining us from. Give me your question for today, because we're going to design today all around your questions. And so you can ask questions in one of two ways. You can turn on your microphone, or you can utilize the chat widget. Cindy's joining us from Ohio. Welcome, Cindy. Kim's joining us from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and I'm finally taking the step to do what I've always wanted to do. Way to go. I love that. Way to go. All right. So first name, where you're joining us from. What's your question for today, so that we can best utilize this time together? And if you're talking and we can't hear you, it's just because your microphone's not on. But you can also use the chat widget. See Kim joining us from Dallas, Texas. Welcome, Kim. What are your questions for today? So any business-related question, any coaching-related question, we are down for anything. I just saw Carl joining us from Pasadena. Welcome, Carl. Kim says, what is the best way to promote yourself when you have no experience? Excellent. This is a really big barrier for a lot of coaches starting out, because our conventional wisdom is that we are people with no experience. Charlene a little while ago said something that's really important for us to all to get. Charlene says, I've kind of been doing this my whole life, but I would love to actually be official and get paid to do it. Here's what I notice about coaches in general, the people who are breaking into coaching. Very few people, even though there's a lot of money to be made in coaching. I mean, that is true, that there's that one big upside of coaching is, the average first-year coach in the United States is making between $118 to $128 per session. Our Jumpstart coaches who are going through our program are making between $250 to $1,000 per session. What is the difference between that? It's not skills or training. The difference is your own personal worth and being really able to bring people into an encounter with the benefit and the value that you give people. It's never about the money for the most part. I mean, it is about the money, but it's not about the money why people break into coaching. Because the conversations that I always have with coaches is that they have always been the go-to person. They've always been the listener. They're always the person that everybody kind of just like they open themselves up. I mean, listen to these things. People come to you and they drop everything. They open themselves up. They have it's like an instant connection. What is going on there? It's the kind of people that you are already. Now, just because you just got certified or about to get certified, or you're brand new in terms of being a business owner, this is not something new. So you're not a person without experience. So when we get out to promoting ourselves and introducing ourselves, It's not something new. What I show our coaches to do, how to do, is to draw from your life experiences, personal and professional, to bring that together in terms of a marketing message. Because here's the thing, who has more credibility? Someone who just talks about helping people, or someone who says, you know what, I have been doing this my entire life and I decided that I would create a business out of it because it's my passion, it's my calling, but it's also my vocation. We've discovered that they're all one and the same. And so one of the things that gives everyone credibility that starts a business is that, wow, this person must be so good at what they do that now they have actually started a business in doing it. So we don't focus on, when we tell our story, we don't focus on, my focus isn't that I am a new coach. My focus is not that I have not gotten paid to do this. My story that I build my brand around when I start out as a coach is it's usually a defining moment. Sometimes it's a life struggle that made you find your destiny and find your purpose. Sometimes it's I've looked back at my entire life and I found out that from when I was a child to when I was in high school to when I was in college, I was always this kind of a person. There's these breakthrough moments that we found that when we look back, this is all part of your story. So when I construct my marketing message in terms of promoting myself, people want story. People don't care about coaching. And I'm not saying they don't care about it. I'm saying they don't care about it. They don't care about the process. They don't care about you explaining what coaching is. What they want to know is, how does your story connect with them? And how does your story give credibility to you, to show that you know what makes them tick, how that you can relate? Because I would say that your story and the way that you promote yourself is not about you at all. It's about them. It's about them as being a hero in their story. So when I craft my story, even if I'm a brand new coach or if I've been doing this for 10 years, I'm still not the hero. It's not about my experience as far as being a professional and the credentials. My focus is, here's what my story is crafted around. My whole life, this was the story. I overcame these kinds of things. And I noticed that there were a lot of other people struggling that I helped with the same kinds of things. And I decided that I would embark professionally to do this full time. Let's say that somebody and you can do this with any part of your life. You can do this with your previous working career. Let's say that you worked in HR. You're in human resources and a lot of your job was just shuffling papers all day. Not a lot of glamorous kinds of stuff, dealing with insurance things, whatever, on the phone, dealing with kinds of things. But there was a portion of your job that did have to do with job descriptions, that did have to do with actually helping people. Unfortunately, it was usually only about 5 or 10% of your job. So if I was going to take that experience over, I'd say, you know what, for the last 5 years, I have helped people get into position for success inside of various organizations and corporations. And I realized that I was most passionate about getting people specifically into the place that they would be most passionate, but they would also be most effective. And I realized that in doing that, in a corporate atmosphere, that wasn't always the goal of my bosses. And so what I have decided to do, and what I'm giving my life to from this point on, is specifically focusing on individuals to make sure that they get into the sweet spot that they're supposed to be in, and also helping corporations and organizations leverage the talents and abilities that they have in people, so that they're much more productive and that it affects their bottom line. Now, does that sell me? Does it talk about my experience? Yes. Does it talk about my experience with coaching? Does it talk about how long I've been certified? Does it talk about where I got trained or anything? It doesn't. It doesn't address any of those things. And those are not the questions in anyone's mind anyway. The reason why people will do work with you is because they trust you, because they like you, and you've shown a certain level of expertise to help them with their problem. So hopefully that's helpful. I know I kind of grabbed a small question and built a lot of things around it, but you are not a spring chicken. None of you. I'm not saying you're old. I'm 44 myself, but we had a previous life that is all relevant to our coaching practices. because it has developed wisdom. Your failures, your successes, all of your challenges are things that are brought to bear right now. And why you get paid the big bucks is not simply because you went and got trained and got certified somewhere. You get paid the big bucks because all of this stuff is going to come into your coaching to make you a brilliant coach, to go there, to push people, to ask the right questions, to have the compelling reason why people work with you. So hopefully that's helpful. What other questions do we have from you guys? Let me check it out really quickly. Omar said, what's the difference between life coaching and work coaching? Well, I'm going to say that I'm going to assume that work you mean career. I'm going to assume that. Here's what we really believe, and this is what we train all of our students in Jumpstart to do. For those of you who are wondering, when I say Jumpstart, we have a business development program that has, it's 20 core modules, but we really, most schools only teach you about coach training and skills, and that's only 10% of your coaching practice. The rest is, how do you get a client? How do you develop a target market? How do you develop a niche? A lot of things. How do you create multiple streams of income? All of these different things. So to answer your question, coaching, the skills of coaching are relevant across the board, regardless of what niche you choose. And there's a difference between target market and niche. Target market is the people you will serve, and niche is what am I bringing to these people? So when I say niche, I'm probably going to think about things like executive coaching, life coaching. There's a long list. I always encourage our students to niche, to choose a target market and to choose a niche. And here's why. Number one, because your target market, you're going to work with the people that you are most passionate about working with, and you'll do your best work with those people. There is a relevant group of people who you are most passionate about, and they light your fire when you're with them. You'll do your best work with those people. And also niche is, what result am I bringing to these people? If someone works with you, and what is the result that comes out of there? Don't ever try to sell coaching. People need to know what result, who you work with, what problems do you help people solve, what desires do you help people fulfill. And when you do that, it makes it a lot easier for people to open the door for you. You know, people should look on your website and know in 3 seconds those questions. What does this person do? Who do they help? What problems do they help people solve? And you're not selling coaching in any of those things. You focus on that. So the difference that I would say between life coaching, executive coaching, and all those other things is all about what result we're trying to get to people. And I'm out of focus. Why am I out of focus? Come on, technology, work with me here. Okay, so the difference is what result are we bringing to people? It's not really, the difference is not really in the skills or the techniques or the tools that you're using, because coaching's coaching. So whether I am working, now granted, you can create your own model, and coaching's incredibly flexible. So you can create your own style and you can create your own model in it. But the core competencies of coaching, those core skills, the foundational things that make coaching coaching, that's why when people go through our school and they get certified as a life coach, most of them don't start their practices as life coaches. We help them discover, and we have some tools, some discovery tools to help them define who are you most passionate about working with, and what results do you want to help those people get. And so we've got a lot of people. We had one. I remember we had one particular student that a few years ago came in. She thought that she wanted to be a grief coach, and I didn't know what that was. We helped her process some of those things. But the funny thing is that in the discovery, she discovered a group of people she was really passionate about working with, and found out some skills that she had that now she's literally doing business development coaching, which is the craziest thing, because her background was not in business. Her background was actually in teaching. She started crushing it as a coach, and now this is what she does on this end. And so we watch people find these, and you kind of discover it as you go along. But that's the way that you unpack it for people. I do encourage people to niche, as I said, and again, the niche that you choose is all based on, the skills are the same, but we're really talking about a simple way for people to understand, here's who I work with, and here's the results that I help people get. So hopefully that's helpful. Cindy says, looking for the best software to add my online course. add videos, etc. It really depends on what your end game is with that, Cindy. I don't know if you're thinking if it's just simply a course or a program. There's a lot of different ways that I see coaches doing this. Some are just using Facebook groups. And the reason why they're using Facebook groups is because everybody's kind of familiar with it. You know, you've got billions of people or whatever, probably at least a billion people on Facebook right now. Most people are really savvy on it, regardless of what age you are. People have it on their phone. And so that's one thing that I see even some high-end coaches using, some that are charging thousands of dollars for their programs are just using Facebook groups because everybody's really familiar. It's not so much about having to pay for another platform, it's that they were able to move people through. With courseware, there's a lot of options that are out there. And I think where I would start is I want to find something that is really automated. So when I say automated, I really want something that does a lot of administrative tasks for me that I don't want to do, you know. And some of that's going to be like, does this software have the ability to send emails to everyone? Does this software have the ability to create groups if I wanted to? Can I not touch any of the process from someone registering and buying something? Go behind the scenes, look at things if they're intuitive enough, if they're user friendly enough. Look at what the reviews say about their support and those kinds of things. A couple of the ones that come to mind, and they're different price points, and you'll have to figure out. I'm going to go with I'm not going to go with the most expensive thing starting out, unless I can justify that there are a lot of people, and this is going to save me a lot of time, and I'm helping tons of people. You know, we did a courseware change about 2 years ago. We had 20-something thousand students to move over into a new system. I can justify going a little higher end with some of those things. But if I'm only dealing with like 5 or 6 people, then I'm going to think about the fact that how they're charging me for packages. And the way that most courseware charges you, they either charge you, they give you free and they charge you per transaction like 5%, which can be a lot of money over time, or they might charge you for the number of students that go in there. They'll have different pricing tiers. Teachable's a good one that's out there that I know a lot of people are using. And it's comparable in terms of pricing from one platform to another. It's really reliable. It's turnkey in the sense of it allows you to create your website there if you want to. You can do your domain name there. You can host your email there. So that's one feature. It has a lot of features, and so I like to think of, I don't want to pay one service for email, one service for a domain name, one service for all this. If you can find one place to do everything, that they can host your website and your courseware, that's probably one of the best ways to go. Some of their builders aren't as easy, but that's one way that you can go. So Teachable is one of those that's out there. Kajabi, Kajabi, they're a little more expensive. They're really good. Another company is called Thinkific. They do all of these things, and everybody's pricing points. You just need to make a list of everything that you feel like you need. I know what that list is for us, but I didn't know it on the front end. For me, automation's king, because if I can get automated emails sent for passwords, for registration stuff, to be able to email people, to be able to make announcements, all those things, those are management kinds of things that once you get to a big level, I need to get this announcement out to everybody as quickly as possible. I need an interface that's simple for my users. Our users in Life Coach Training Institute, most of them are in their 40s. They're pretty tech savvy, but they could still get confused. I also want something that works across all devices. Our program that we use does that. And so those are some of the things you'll want to ask, but those are 3 platforms that I feel really comfortable suggesting. Kajabi is great. It is the most expensive of the 3. And you'll have to justify it based on, and also if you want to do your program with completion certificates and some of that other stuff, not every program offers that, but they're getting really comparable in features, and a lot of people are doing some great work. You can also choose to host it on your own, but if you're not tech savvy, You might save some money, but it's not usually worth the stress. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see what else we've got in here. Lisa from Connecticut, welcome. Best social media platforms to attract new clients. Well, they're all great. They're just all a little bit different. And so Facebook's probably your most old and reliable. Twitter, pretty good. And so is Instagram. Now, here's what I would say. It all depends on where your users are, depending on what age group they are. Facebook's getting older. It's kind of taken over by Gen X, and older people. If you notice that the younger people in the emerging generation, they're less and less using Facebook. For one, because they don't because they have bigger privacy concerns, and older people are using passwords like ABC123. They don't have a clue of how bad that is, and so so there's a lot of privacy concerns with Facebook that the emerging generation is kind of getting off it or using it less. And so Instagram is going to have a younger demographic. So you're talking about a big core of 25 to 35-year-olds. There are people on opposite ends of the spectrum on it as well, but there's going to be a really strong core there. And the uses of Instagram is different than Facebook and some of the other platforms. But I would definitely say Facebook's still relevant. Twitter is relevant in its own way. It's just a different kind of tool, and so is Instagram. What I would say is that they all work, but if you are going to go after social media, if you're going to go after working, my biggest concern for everybody who is on social media trying to get business, because listen, we have an Instagram. It's pretty much followed exclusively by coaches. I watch what a lot of people do, and they're not going to convert anybody into a client based on what they're doing. It's a lot of yoga poses and quoting Zen masters, and people think they're yoga instructors or something. Big thing is, know who you are, know what your message is, know who you're trying to reach, know your target market, and know the result that you're wanting to bring people into. Know those things. We need to talk about those things, and we need to make a bridge. I'm not trying to make myself a hero. I want those people to be the hero in the story. And encourage interactivity, build a community, connect with people, comment, like other people's stuff, send private messages, those kinds of things. And so what I see a lot of coaches doing is that they just rip through a day or two of sending posts, and they don't make any posts for a few days. And then maybe they do the next week, and they're really inconsistent. If you're going to go this route, choose who your target market is and choose your niche and build a relationship with those people. What is going to build trust and likability? That you're authentic, that you're vulnerable, that, one of the people that that my wife follows, that she turned me on to, this lady will show herself in best business dress in front of thousands of people, and maybe the next day she's showing herself at home with no makeup on, dealing with a chronic illness. It's very real, and so she invites people into this space. And we're not trying to be a downer to people, but let people see you in your real life. Allow them to have a meaningful connection with you, so that you're not just a superstar like everybody else is on Instagram and everything else. People that I've seen that have become really big in Instagram over the years start to lose touch with their audience, and then they start selling products, and then they start looking too perfect, and they forget what gave them the audience to begin with. And so this is how you build an audience. You don't need thousands and thousands of people. Have a smaller group of engaged people who are making connections and interacting with your posts. And so the difference between Facebook and Instagram and some of these other things is, obviously there's some limits on what you're able to do. And so if you're going to go very video driven, I know Instagram just recently made some changes so that you can go live and people can watch them. But know this is that people consume their media a little bit differently on Instagram than what they do on Facebook. On Facebook, you can share links. On Instagram, you're kind of limited in how you can display links and stuff like that with just a profile link or whatever. So they're a little bit nuanced. They're all great, but if you use more than one, I just say do what you can do the best that you can do it. Don't do something if you can't do it well. Do something that you can really commit time to, and decide when you're going to post. The time of the day that people are more interactive, you can actually look at that on Instagram. It gives you a little blurb of information to see what was the best time of the day to that people are interacting. It may be different between Instagram and Facebook, so you might have the same post, but you post it at a different time on Instagram and a different time on Facebook based on interactivity. Your face sells much more than other people's faces. So people respond to faces. You can look at your audience and see what kinds of things are people liking, what kinds of things are people responding to, what kinds of stuff that you're posting that people get a higher level of response. Replicate those kinds of things. And so just have a plan, have an end game to do it really well, and build relationship. Think, every day I'm trying to make a personal, meaningful connection with this person. It takes 5 to 8 personal, meaningful connections before you move someone over and convert them into a client. And it can be done on social media. It's just a little bit more challenging than in real life because somebody might miss your post. They might miss your post for a few days on your feed. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see what other questions that we have on here. What are the best techniques for coaching? Well, there's a lot. I don't think that I can give you lots and lots because, I mean, there's so many. It all really depends on what's the challenge. I don't think that there's one technique that rules. I really believe that techniques are applied based on who's in front of us and what's the challenge. And so if a coach comes to me and they have a particular struggle that they're having with getting breakthrough with a client, I can usually help them there and say, hey, why don't you try this or something like that. But I wouldn't say that there are unlimited techniques, and there's different ways that you can apply those things. But for me, if you just really listen and ask probing questions and get down to meaning, where we mostly miss it with as coaches and with people in general is that we just didn't ask enough questions and get to what they meant by what they said. If we just listen really, really well, there's a reason why people choose the words that they use. And there's a reason why they don't follow through in certain areas and things like that. I just really need to just listen and don't go with the first thing that people say to me as though I understand what they mean. Probe, explore, broaden anything that anyone says and get them really clear about what they say. Because if you get clear to meaning, then it's wide open. We know what people want and we know what's in the way. And so is there one technique to do that? There's lots. And I think it really depends on what the issue is, what the barrier is, what the challenge or the goal is that someone has, that we can use techniques based on that. They're oriented around whatever is happening. So I never want to offer a solution or a technique, that gets a solution that's not dealing with the actual problem. So hopefully that makes sense. What other questions do we have? We're getting close to the end of time here, but I want to make sure that we answer everything. Let's see. Lena from Oceanside, welcome. I love Oceanside. Been out to the pier. We're California people, San Diego people. Lena from Oceanside here. Are there niche markets that you feel are oversaturated and might lack growth potential? Absolutely not. And here's why. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet. And there's only thousands of coaches. There's not even 1 million coaches on the planet. If I took pretty much every coach in the United States, every certified coach in the United States, and I brought them to San Diego, I would need everybody to take at least 40 clients, which they would not be able to do. So no area, no city, no market is oversaturated. And here's an example that I'll give of that. Are there a finite number of houses where any of us live? Some of us live in big cities, some of us live in small towns or whatever, but there's a finite number of houses there, right? You can go out and you can count them. And they might add even 100 houses, but it's still finite. Like there's a limit, and there's only so many houses to buy or sell at any given moment. But every month, there are new real estate agents that are breaking in and selling houses. How can you have more people when you still have a finite group of houses or whatever? Why is and how do you still have new real estate agents that have the capability of making hundreds of thousands of dollars in a calendar year? The reason why is it's a relational business. And that is the key to what we do, is that people aren't, you can't be oversaturated. You can only be oversaturated if it's all about a product. You know, if, hey, we're trying to sell cell phones and we're going to go into this area and everybody has one and we're just going to be another carrier, that's probably a crowded market, because what? Everybody has a cell phone. So we have to make a lower price, or we have to have some kind of incentive for someone to move from one place to another. That's not so with coaching. Coaching is one of those things. It's a relational business, and there might be 30 people who are coaches, and I don't want to work with any of them in my area. I need you, because I want to, because it's a personal connection. It's not, well, you know, there's 30 coaches in my area, and I'm going to have to choose one of them because there's only 30. Or there's 50. Who am I going to choose from? You know, maybe I'll go over here. It's just not like that. It is relationship based. There is only one you, so that means that you are scarce. You can't take more than X amount of clients at any given time. So if they want to work with you, they're not going to get the same coaching from someone else that they're going to get from you. And so it's one of the things that I think a lot of coaches have that little gap of understanding in the beginning of how do people break into coaching, how do you sell coaching and everything else. It's we're not in competition with other coaches. You might think, oh, there's other competition that's out there. We're really not, because you're nothing like anyone else. So what we need to do is to wrap coaching around you so that you are being authentic, that your business is who you are. It's an overflow and extension of who you are, and all of those kinds of things. So so what are some of the ones that have potential that I see out there? Because I want to speak to that. I know that anybody who works in financial planning that I've watched over the years, they have great ambition. They make a lot of money. They have a lot of money to pay coaches. There's hardly anybody serving them. There's a lot of places that are like that. I see that in the health field, where people are very stressed, have a lot of challenges, have huge ambition, but they have no one to walk with them. So there's a lot of different niche markets, and as you get out there, you'll kind of discover those things. But I would say this: none of them are oversaturated, and all of them have potential, because there's people who really need help, and no one's getting to them. So cool. Let me see if there's any other. Someone asked me, would I review Wix.com? Well, I would say this: Wix and Squarespace.com are both great sites for website building, because they look really professional. They work good across all devices, and you can drag and drop your content in there. I would say for both of those, they're doing a really good job with their builders, giving you a lot of access to change things. And also, what I would say, they're affordable. They're turnkey solutions so that you can get everything done in one place, and you don't have to have any website design know-how. Now, and so that's why I like both of them. I think I like Wix a little bit more than Squarespace, but that's just my own personal preference. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. If I wanted to focus on parents of troubled teens, what niche would that be? Well, the thing is that one thing is, you're going to have to be really careful in terms of how we choose what our niche is. You don't want to choose people who are dealing with in trauma and need healing and have a lot of dysfunction. That's better suited for counseling. We want to deal with people who have a high degree of wholeness that they're working in. And so that's going to be the big thing of how you describe yourself, what you attract. You don't want to act like you're a person who deals with behavioral stuff or trauma, or it's a major, like, stressful meltdown kind of situation going on at home. You're gonna have to choose that. Does every parent have a challenge with their teenagers? They do. You can say trouble with a little t. Everybody has challenges because every teenager is growing up. They're all different, and parents, we have a 21-year-old out of the house. She's crushing it. So excited that she made it out of the house, and she's killing it and traveling all over the world and has no debt. Love that. 14-year-old, very different kid. We're trying to figure out, how do we walk with her? How do we parent? How do we coach them along the way? And then we have a 6-year-old, all very, very different kids. And so I'm not dealing with trauma. I'm not dealing with all of this mess and they're trying to be bad kids or anything else. Every kid's going to have you're going to go through development stages, and we have to adjust as parents. So every parent has trouble, at least with a little t. Some of them might feel bigger than a little t, but it's a little t. And so we've got what we're talking about is normal parent stuff and normalizing those kinds of things. But they're challenges, and we want to make adjustments and be the best that we can be. These are the ways that we talk about it. Let's normalize what you're walking through and all those other things, and find those kinds of people. I'm not a fan of going after anyone who is dealing with victim kinds of things or trauma stuff. Those people need healing. Those people need counseling. Those people probably need therapy. And I'm not trained to do those kinds of things, but I can help a parent win with their kid and make those kinds of adjustments. And so those are the kinds of conversations that we're going to have. So trouble with a little t is commitment issues. It's about conversations. It's about being able to talk to your kids, how to create boundaries. It's a lot of those kinds of things. You might be able to use that kind of terminology as you're describing what you're doing, but we need to normalize it, for the 90%. And I'd say that when it comes to coaching, 90% of people are coachable. 10% need to deal with some real healing issues so that they can move forward. Let's see, any other questions that I see out there? Very cool. All right, let me jump really quick, just in case you didn't know. How do we pay the bills? This is it. We do have a free course that you can get in. Our free course is already, it's worth $800. We do something a little bit different in Life Coach Training Institute. We want to build a relationship with our students. And so for people who are just kind of testing the waters, they haven't figured out if they're going to be a coach yet, the free course is one way that you can start out. That it's 10 core modules of our training that covers the core competencies and skills of coaching. Our program is self-paced, on-demand learning. Why are we a more affordable option? Because we work with the 98% of our students who work full-time. We wanted to have an affordable program that fits in people's schedules, and we wanted to remove that gap that's keeping people from starting. Many of you who've talked about your passion and working with people and everything else, we believe in that. But the big gaps that we find for our students, one of them is a financial gap, another one's a time gap, and another one is a training gap. We've eliminated all of those gaps with our program. You see some of these programs that cost thousands of dollars that are out there, and listen, they're worth it. Ours is worth thousands of dollars. The difference is that there's no guarantee for a lot of programs that you go through. It's like going to college, you spend thousands of dollars, and now you don't know how to get a client. And the worst part is that there's no support when you graduate from other programs, same way that it is in college. For us, we're very results oriented. We want to see our students thrive. And so you can go through the training as 10 core modules. Each module gives you a core competency. You have activities at the end, and you learn how to coach by practice, right? And so there's training as you go through there that you're learning the core competencies, putting them to use. The Life Coach certification course, the difference in that is it adds the exam, and you can take the free course and add on the exam later. When you pass the exam with a passing grade of above 70%, you've earned your credential. Our program does not have start dates. It does not have end dates. You have access immediately to that. The Life Coach certification course is $195. If you start with a free course, you can add on the exam later. But that's not all. One of the things that we do that's very different than every program that's out there, just with our Life Coach certification course, it's self-paced, it is affordable, but it's not cheap in terms of what we do. When you graduate, you immediately get assigned a credential ID, and you immediately get a credential that you can integrate into social media. Accredible is our third-party source that hosts all of our credentials. And so when you go on there, you immediately get your ID, but you can integrate it into all your social media. We don't want you having a certificate on your wall only. We want you to be able to market that. So you can literally pull it into LinkedIn, you can pull it into your website, into your email footer, you can pull it into all of your social media. So it's one of the things that alone is a $600 a year value. We give you a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com that's normally $75 a year. That way you can start promoting yourself. But Jumpstart, if today kind of you love the personal feel, you love the fact that we go after mindsets and we give you practical information. I am a six-figure coach. I've been successful in this thing. That's one of the things that's not always the case by coach trainers. I've crushed this thing. I do it really well. I'm not arrogant about it. I come from very humble beginnings, and I grew up below the poverty line. I'm not prideful about it. My deal is I want to help people become that, step past the fears, get mindset breakthroughs, and start stepping across. Because it's not just a financial gap. It's not just a time gap. We've solved that. And it's not just a training gap. We've dealt with that. In Jumpstart, we do a lot of things going after people's mindsets at the same time of giving them business development steps. Because the real issue that we haven't stepped in is if you've Google searched looking into being a life coach more than 2 times, it's glorified procrastination at this point. There's something else that's going on. And there's belief systems and there's programs that are running. And Jumpstart is a 20-module business development roadmap. We show you how to discover your niche, how to discover your target market, how to sell, how to attract clients. If you went to a networking group today and you had to do a 1-minute pitch, we show you how to do that. We give you a template for the explosive first coaching session. That's what we call it. And in 1 hour, you demonstrate powerfully. You get powerful solutions in 1 session. Most coaches take months getting there. When you do that model with a client, they will walk away knowing that you can help them, and they're easy to sign. Our coaches already make quadruple, double to quadruple what other first-year coaches make. First-year coaches usually make between $118 to $128 per session. Our coaches are making between $250 to $1,000 per session. It's not about skill. It's never about ability. Most of you already have had this ability and a lot of these skills that you haven't honed to do this thing. It's not that. It's, do you know the steps that you need to take? And have you had your mindsets conquered that are self-sabotaging you? And we all have them. And we confront those things in Jumpstart. So we give you all that. We show you how to create multiple streams of income. Some of you think that starting a coaching practice is all about one-on-one clients. It's not just that. There's a lot of ways that you can offer coaching, and we do that. I have a weekly group coaching call where I answer every business and coaching related question during that time. We record those, so if you miss the live call, you have access to it every week. Jumpstart alone is a nearly $2,000 a month value for everything that you get. There's an online community where students are role playing with one another. You get feedback on anything that you want to submit to us that you are working on. Jumpstart's only $99 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. You get certified through Jumpstart because when you log into your dashboard after you enroll in it, you have access to the Life Coach Certification course and Jumpstart. A minimum of 3 months that we require for you to be in it, and it covers everything. If for some reason after 3 months, if you're done and you want to leave, then that's fine, but we only require those 3 months. We have worked with thousands of students. We know what all of your disqualifiers are and your objections. We want you to have support. We want you to have success. Yes, we want you to have the skills, but we realize that for you to be successful, it's not just about skills. It's about that there's something in us that needs to be uncorked. It needs to be released. You need to be launched into what you're made for. You need to be given permission to step into what you were made to do. You've been doing that for people your entire life. Now it's time to, for the first time in your life, maybe to get a little bit selfish, which really isn't, because when your story resolves, the story of all the people's lives around you start to resolve. So I hope that that's really helpful for you today. It's been a great time spending with you today. We're going to get this process. We'll send you a link to the replay if we have your email. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. My name is Paul Dabdu. I'm the founder of Life Coach Training Institute. You guys are all amazing. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.